Great use of it.
I didn't even think that was a bad thing.
I didn't, but you never know. It's good that we Googled it, though.
Apologies.
Now we're more educated. The thing is, right, in the world, you're going to fuck up on certain things, but as long as you learn from it, that's the main thing, right?
Yeah. You're right there.
Yeah. So back to the story. With Danny's father being the ex-convict, they became really, really good at what they were doing. So much so that they were able to buy an old car with all the money that they made at this point. So now, with a hot set of wheels, the three boys headed on the road to both Charleston and Columbia, where they became frequent partakers in the local sex workers, both male and female. And these dudes are pretty darn tootingly young at this point as well. What's the
Oh, it's sad.
It's not going down a good path, is it, right? It's not going down a good path. This is why I want to explain. That's why I want to take the time to explain these sorts of things, because I think it's important to see where they came from, maybe how they evolved to the people that they became. Things really start to take a turn, though, when they moved away from the sex workers. The thought kind of was like, hey, why are we paying for this? Why don't we just take sex where we can get it?
Oh.
Not a good thing to think. Not a good thing to think.
Okay, yeah.
This sort of mentality resulted in the boys gang raping Marsh's younger sister. They offered her money for her to keep quiet, but obviously when that didn't work out, they started to threaten her. But neither could keep her silent, and Marsh's parents, understandably, went off on the boys. Yeah, so good on her for speaking out and not being so easily silenced, because if you're in that situation, I know it's difficult, especially for a young child, to speak out like that. That's insane. So good on her for speaking out. Now, surprisingly, Danny's father, one of the older lads, one of his friends, clearly, obviously being a gross human being himself, defended Danny, threatening Marsh's parents with a shotgun. So one of the lads who obviously committed this horrible fucking gang rape, their father was sort of backing him up. Right? So he seems like a fucking dick as well. Most definitely. Donald and Marsh himself didn't escape so easily, though. Parents tied the boys up by their wrists in a barn and with a leather strap proceeded to beat them bloody. No, I don't know if that's a good... If you young children like this, maybe just take them to the jail.
Take them to the police.
I mean, I know you would want to fucking beat the living crap out of them, but when they're kids like this, I don't know if that's the best way to mold someone who has obviously very negative, bad tendencies.
Yeah,
I don't think you sort of beat good into people. I don't think so, anyway.
No.
People might disagree, but I think at that certain age, maybe they need a bit of extra help.
It can either go either way, to be fair.
That's true. This is true. So it's safe to say that the whole situation between that broke up the band, and the troubled trio went their separate ways, as you would imagine that sort of thing would. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't long before Donald found himself another friend. The two carried on robbing houses, and all was going smoothly until on Saturday in 1946, he was prowling a house when one of the tenants, a girl he knew, surprised him. This girl was armed with a hatchet, and she sort of slashed out at Donald and chased him outside. Obviously, as you would if you saw someone in your fucking house, you would scream and you would go fucking psycho. Unfortunately, Donald managed to disarm her and struck back, gashing her arms and splitting her scalp open.
Oh my God. So, was she all right?
Well, the girl did survive to identify Donald, and she obviously pointed him out. And he was jailed for assault with a deadly weapon and intent to kill.
How long for?
The judge found him guilty as charged and consigned him to the South Carolina Industrial School for Boys until his 18th birthday. So there's a good few years going on. By the way, just a little side note, I don't know how true this is. I couldn't really fully fact check this, but it's reported that when the judge read out his full name, Donald-Henry-Gaskins, apparently that was the first time he'd ever heard his full name ever spoken out loud.
Oh.
Because people just referred to him as Pee-wee, I guess.
As if?
I'm sure other people I don't know how true that is. I'm sure other people, teachers maybe would have told him. Donald, they wouldn't call him Pee-wee, right? It's a bit tight there.
Yeah, you would think that the teachers would...
maybe just not the full name. Nah, fuck it. So, this is where things get even worse for him. So, I think it's really interesting to really paint this picture of how this type of behaviour can be moulded by, pushing people in the wrong way. Maybe the wrong action's been taken. But you never know. So, in reform school, things don't go well. In fact, Donald at one point stated himself that it's here where he received his quote-unquote real education. On just his second night in custody in the boys' home, Donald was ambushed in the shower, beaten and gang-raped by a group of 20 other boys.
Oh my God.
20 boys! 20! I mean, I know there's this whole thing. You know what? There's this whole thing, and this is a debate for another time, right? But there's this whole thing where people saying about teaching young boys not to rape, that sort of thing. Yeah. And people argue against it. And to be fair, I've argued against it sometimes. Why do we need to be told not to rape? I mean, it feels a little bit condescending. But then the facts like this, 20 boys.
It's weird.
It's more than weird.
It's fucked.
That's insania. That is insania. Right? No, that's gross. 20 boys. Fuck. It's so weird for me that 20 people would all have the same gross mentality in the same close vicinity to do something like that. I mean, one's enough. 2 is even worse, but 20 people, all the same vile mentality. It's insane.
Do they, though? It's the thing, though. It's like, are people getting pressured into doing that as well? Good
point. That could be a part of it.
Yeah.
So, you might be surprised to hear that this whole gang rape situation wasn't the worst thing that could have happened to Donald. But to avoid any further forms of abuse and torture, Donald decided to accept protection from the dormitory's top dog, known to them as Boss Boy.
Okay.
The protection, however, came with a few stipulations, including, among other things, providing sex to the boss boy and his friends whenever they wanted. So you might be right. If this boss boy dude is as powerful within the boys' home as maybe he is, maybe the other dudes, when he tells them to do what he tells them to do, maybe they think, fuck, I'd rather do this than be on the literal sort of receiving end of it and get beaten as well and all that sort of shit. Maybe. So, of course, this wasn't the life that Donald or anybody in that situation would ever want for themselves. He did make... we're going to sort of jump forward just a touch because there's a lot of little things that happened in the school, but they're not as crucial to... of his development. I don't feel as into the person he becomes as some of the other things. So I've tried to cut it down. I have tried my best, people, to cut this down as much as I possibly can. But it is worth mentioning that he did make a few attempts to escape, but he got caught every time. A new boss boy takes over. It sounds like this could be a TV show. A new boss boy takes over, but this one's not as forgiving, so he doesn't. He's not like the protection doesn't stop him from a lot of things that also happen. So it's a lot of the same repeated behavior sort of thing that he experiences essentially. So every time he gets caught trying to escape, the punishments get worse and worse, going from 20 to 30 lashes with a strap. He has hard labour, isolation and whippings. He was also beaten unconscious by a guard at one point and suffered a ruptured appendix where he almost lost his life. Like I said, at this point, another boss boy had taken over and things were just not going well for him. And this is all before his 18th birthday, keep in mind. Your brain hasn't fully developed at that point. It's just insane that this would. I don't know what the laws were like at this point in time, but I'm pretty sure this was probably illegal, right? People beating kids into an unconscious state. I think even back then
there was corporal punishment and things like that.
It's true.
I really don't know that with that sort of situation, in all honesty.
No. Well, I'm glad it's illegal now to sort of beat kids.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what they've friggin' done, I just don't think you can beat good into people. I don't think it works.
Definitely can.
He does try and make quite a successful escape at one point in 1950, where he managed to join a travelling carnival. It was here he actually fell in love with a 13-year-old member of the circus crew and actually married her on January 22nd, 1951. So he's out for a little while. He's on the run for a little while. He must have liked her a lot, because he decided he didn't want to run anymore at this point, because obviously he was married to her, and he was thinking, I could get caught at any point. So it wasn't long after they actually got married that Donald handed himself into the cops to serve out the remaining 3 or so months of his sentence, where he was placed in solitary confinement for the entire duration.
Oh my god.
So he only had a little bit of time actually left at the point where he escaped.
Yeah.
So he thought, fuck it, I'll go back and I'll just do the couple of months that I've got left.
Yeah, makes sense.
He gets released, as promised, on his 18th birthday, where he goes from job to job for a bit and then decides to join up with a guy he knew from the boys' home to go loot and burn tobacco barns, collaborating with some of the landowners to commit insurance fraud. Oh. So they get in cahoots with these people to obviously get insurance. Tricky guys.
Still happens today.
Yeah, that sort of thing definitely still happens today. Definitely still happens. But it's all sort of conspiracy and covered up and things.
Yeah.
Conspiracy podcast. Let's talk about the files.
We are not a conspiracy podcast.
The lasers that people used and set fires to the forests and people's homes. Do you hear that conspiracy?
Yeah, you know the California fires
that set the California fires on. It's crazy. I don't believe it.
But I don't believe that.
It's interesting to lose yourself in those sorts of things sometimes.
Wasn't lasers meant to have come from like outer space, like from the satellites?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that technology even existing?
Yeah, there was that documentary, Geostorm, with Gerard Butler. Did you know watch that?
Oh yeah, that documentary.
Good documentary. Yeah. No, I don't know. If it is, then whoever is in charge is covering that up. But either way, back to this. Back to Mulder. So the boys burn the barns. They do it about several times before word of their crimes actually start to spread, and his partner in crime makes a run for it. It was here that things took a turn. One day while working his day job, his employer's teenage daughter and a girlfriend cornered Donald in a barn, taunting him with rumours of his barn burning forays. So they were calling him names and going, "You burn barns, you barn burning bastard," and all that sort of thing. I'm sure they probably said a lot worse things. Donald snaps, boom, cracked, lashed out with a hammer and cracked the girl's skull. Jailed for arson, assault with a deadly weapon, and attempted murder. He beat the first charge at trial, then struck a bargain on the others. So he goes back in. What
about his missus at this time?
She is nowhere to be seen at this point.
Oh, okay.
Well, she's obviously with traveling circus. So.
Yeah.
The prosecutor promised Donald 18 months confinement in return for a guilty plea, but Pee-wee failed to get the deal in writing, and Judge T.B. Griniker had other ideas. He instead pronounced a 5-year sentence, then added another year for contempt when Donald cursed at him in court. It's like that clip of that fucking girl. Did you see that clip of that girl who's in court, and I think she gets done for like drunk driving or some shit like that, and she gets maybe like 3 months in prison, but then she swears at the judge, and then he sort of like gives her extra time. She had to spend like a year or something like that.
I vaguely recall
I love that. You know, if you're in court talking to a judge, don't get cocky with it. Just go with it. You're in a bad situation already. Don't make it fucking any worse than it needs to be. So he was sent to South Carolina State Prison in fall of 1952. Now, what happens at this point is almost a full repeat of his time at the boys' home, with a little twist. kind of. The sexual abuse begins again, the same as it had done before. However, Donald this time wasn't going to put up with it. Instead of boss boys in the prison, they had things called power men, and Donald had decided the only way he was going to survive this time
was to become a power man.
Was to become Power Man.
Jesus Christ, this does sound like a proper superhero, that.
It doesn't it? Power Man. A very bad one, maybe. And the only way to... I couldn't imagine. And the only way to do this was to kill